Today, I'm playing the biggest 5, 10, 25 poker game in the world, and I'm putting $10,000 down on the table to prove it. We're playing at the Fort here in Aledo, Texas, and I've invited out my best friend and fellow content creator Rampage, who bought in for $50,000, the most ever in Fort card room history. And let's just say the action here never disappoints.
He's all it?
Yeah.
That's some with me.
Why do you look so nervous?
We get into a couple massive pots with kings and queens and even make quads against Rampage himself. We're playing 5, 10, 25, and I look down at ace king of clubs from the big blind off of a $10,000 starting stack. A few hands went by where I had to fold, so I'm down to $9,000. Ethan over there with his $50,000 stack opens it up to $100, and we get a call from the player on his left. I just want to reiterate how crazy $50,000 is in this game. At the 25 big blind level, that's 2,000 big blinds. If you think about tournaments, normally you're playing with somewhere between 50 and 150 big blinds. Let's just say Ethan might be doing a little bit of compensating here at this game. The action's back over to me, and I 3-bet Ethan to $450. He puts in the call, we lose the other player, heads up to a flop, which comes king, queen, 5 rainbow. Looks like I have a little bit of home field advantage here at the Fort. After all, I own a small piece of it. I decided to go for a c-bet on this board to the tune of $350, just trying to milk my good buddy over there in the low jack, but unfortunately he folds his cards. Still with $9,000 in my stack, I now look down at ace 10 offsuit from under the gun and open it up to $100. Milkman across the table puts in the call, and David Alexander on my right calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes 10, 9, 3, 2 diamonds. David checks, and given the fact I'm in between 2 opponents, I usually start with a check. I also have the ace of diamonds in my hand, which is great because I can back into the nut flush. So for both of those reasons, I start with a check, and Milkman takes the bait and fires out for $300. Just put in the call and let's see a turn. The turn comes to 10 of clubs. Bang! We have 3 of a kind. I check it over to Milkman once again, planning to go for the check raise, but unfortunately he checks behind. The river now comes the queen of spades, and I'm left with a decision. Do I go for a bet here somewhere along the lines of $700 to $1,200, or do I check it over to him, allow him to bluff with some missed diamonds, missed clubs? That's what I decided to do. I check it over to Milkman, who overbets the pot for $1,100, and I snap call him. I'm going absolutely nowhere with my 3 of a kind. I beat a lot of bluffs and some value as well, but unfortunately we do not beat a hand such as Jack King off. Milkman in the cutoff, taking down an over $3,000 pot. Unfortunately for me, I let him get there, but at the same time, I think he's gonna bluff this river with a ton of hands that we have beat, and checking on the turn and river allows him to do that. So, all right, this next one's a fun one. Danny opens it up to $150, and we get 2 calls in front of us, and I look down at king jack of clubs. Could be a great time to go for a 3-bet somewhere around $750, but instead, I just put in the call. Drew on my left calls, and Ethan does as well. So just like that, we're going off to a pot 6 ways, or Texas heads up as we call it here at the Fort. $900 in the pot, and the flop comes king, queen, jack with 2 diamonds. When the action checks over to me on the button, I don't want to check this behind and allow a hand like jack 10, ace queen to get there with a gut shot. I also don't want diamonds to see a free card, so I bet out for $555. Cinco de Mayo, baby. It's a fiesta, and Drew in the small blind puts in the call. He's the only player to do so, and the turn now comes the 6 of hearts. He checks it over to me, and I decide to go for $555 once again, and Drew calls. We're now playing an over $3,000 pot in the river.
It is. Tricky.
Comes about the worst card in the deck. The 10 of diamonds brings in the front door flush draw, also puts a 4-liner, and a 9 or ace now has me beat. Luckily, Drew checks it over to me again. I check behind, and he tables a hand that we had beat on the turn, but unfortunately not on the river. Nice hand, Drew. You are taking down a $3,100 pot with ace king of spades. Even though we're having a lot of fun, the night isn't quite going the way we planned it out financially. I'm down $4,000, but we play a lot of bomb pots here at the fort, and I end up making quads against Ethan and scoop the entire pot. So that's gonna get us back in the right direction, but a lot more work to do here if I have any hopes of making a decent profit on the session. The momentum is building. I win another pot here with King 10 offsuit, where I bluff catch Milkman and Ethan on the river with King 10 offsuit for a better pair of 10s.
I snap with this and you knit. Call it, brother. I guess I would love to your ass.
That brings us into this doozy of a hand where I limp under the gun with the ladies. Pocket queens, Drew limps to my left as well, and Danny now opens it up to $150. The action's over to Caroline in the small blind, who calls the $150, and I didn't limp with queens to not spring a trap. I now 3-bet to $700. We lose Drew and Danny, and the action's back over to Caroline, who almost snap folds, looks at her friend Jensen to her left, and then Danny wants to get in on the help as well. He asked my permission to help her, and of course, if there's two ladies at the table, they can get as much help as they want from whomever they want.
She can't help.
I don't know if anyone at this table is qualified to give good advice. I built the lineup after all, and these are all just a bunch of fish. So Caroline, be careful with your money here. But she asked Danny what to do, and he says snap shove it all in. So that's what she does. She puts her $1,080 stack in the middle. Of course, I'm calling it off for less than $400 more, and I should be in a pretty good spot here with pocket queens. She wanted to fold, and then Danny told her to put it in. There's just no way this is kings or aces or ace king, but we are gonna run this 2 times.
What do you want to go, once or twice?
I'm gonna go push in directly, or I'm gonna get cash.
Do you want high risk or low risk? One time.
No, 2 times.
She wants high risk?
2 times.
Caroline, you want high risk?
Yeah, better odds. Yeah, better odds.
And I have no idea what she has, but when the first board comes ace 7-3 with 2 clubs and Ethan starts screaming, yeah, that's probably not a great board for us. The turn and river do not help us in the slightest. And the second board comes another ace. Everyone's screaming again. It's pretty obvious at this point she has some sort of ace in her hand. The turn and river aren't a queen, which means we're losing against ace queen offsuit. She was gonna fold it pre-flop. I'm not mad at Danny for helping her. I got it in good, can't be mad about it, and look how much enjoyment it brought the rest of the table to see her win and not me. Good for poker, I guess. With my stack now approaching $5,000, I reach into my bag and I pull out my remaining cash, $1,260. I'm now in for $11,260. We got our work cut out for us, and I look down at 8-9 of diamonds now from the cutoff. There's a raise to 75. I put in the call, and we pick up 2 other players going 4 ways to the flop, which comes ace-7-5 with 2 spades. The action checks through, giving me the nuts on the turn, the 6 of diamonds. Bang, we turn the straight. Actions on Milkman, who fires out for $400, and the other player calls. Back over to me with the nuts. There's 2 spades, there's 2 diamonds. I need to go for a raise and get value right now. I make it $1,250 to go. Milkman snap folds, but we pick up a customer heads up to the river in a $3,200 pot, which comes the 8 of clubs. Although it appears to be a weird card because now it's a 4-liner. There's no spade out there. There's no higher diamonds that I have to be worried about. If he has a set or 2 pair, he's probably gonna pay me off for another bet. So into the $3,200 pot comes a jam for $3,300. It's just slightly overbet on this river, and he goes into the tank for a long time. I really need a call here if I have any hopes on getting unstuck on the session, but the opponent does not oblige. He folds his cards, makes a good fold at that. I'm taking out a $6,500 pot, which is giving us some nice momentum here. I'm now up to $8,500 in my stack, only down around $3,000 now. When I look down at pocket 10s from the cutoff, the $100 straddles out there. There's a raise to $300 ahead of me. This could be a good 3-bet situation, but instead I just call. The straddler now 3-bets to $1,300, and Reet on my right puts in the call. If you guys aren't familiar with Reet, he's a Fortnite streamer, a really good one at that, and I decide to call the $1,300. I think a better line, you guys, though, would just supposed to be to 3-bet REIT originally to like $800 to $1,000 and not be in this weird situation where I really have no idea where I'm at. But still, 3 ways to a flop at pocket tens can't be the worst spot in the world, but it appears like it might be when the flop comes king, queen, 9 rainbow. $4,000 in the middle, and the opponent in the straddle now jams for $3,000. Even though I have a gut shot and a pair, there's just no way I'm good here. He easily could have a hand like ace king, king queen, maybe even ace queen would want to get it in here and just see all 5 cards. So unfortunately, I'm forced to muck my hand. Probably could have played this one a little bit better, but I'm gonna upgrade my hand here in the next one with king 10 offsuit from the $200 straddle. Yeah, I put the $200 straddle out there. That's the only way that I'm gonna get unstuck on this session. Look, I only have $6,500 in front of me. Ethan's at the table. I gotta give some action. There's a raise to $500 from Milkman. David Alexander on my right calls, and I call as well. We're taking it to the streets here on a king 10-6 with 2 diamond board, and the action checks over to Milkman, who fires out for $800. I have top pair, backdoor diamonds, backdoor straight draw. I guess I put in the call off to the turn in a $3,200 pot, which comes the 9 of clubs. Check, check. Interestingly, he checks behind on the turn, and the river now comes the ace of clubs. I don't love that. It's the only card that could have came on the river that puts an overcard to my pair of kings. So I check it over to Milkman, and into the $3,200 pot, he now jams, putting me all in for $2,000. I hate this spot. I had top pair on the flop and turn, but the river now brings in an overcard. He also could have a hand like queen jack for a straight. Maybe he would check that back on the turn. Still, top pair should be good here a small portion of the time, but is he really jamming with only $2,000 in my stack as a bluff? I don't think so. I muck my cards, and unfortunately for you guys and for me, we'll never know what he has. But let me know down in the comments if you like this fold here. Maybe that would have been a tilt call though, you guys. I think if I call here and I'm wrong, you'd be like, what a bad call. That's obviously not a bluff. With a $100 straddle out there from Milkman and a raise to 400 from Ethan, the action folds around to me, and it's pretty clear what they want me to do.
What's happening?
100, 400, fold, call.
But yeah, with 7 deuce offsuit, I decided to make it $1,400. They both fold, and I get to proudly show that I got it through. I'm gonna pick up an additional $25 from every person. And then with pocket queens, I open it up to $300 and pick up 2 customers. The action checks through on the flop. I go for a delayed c-bet on the turn, and both Reet and David Alexander fold. So nice back-to-back pots here where I'm just putting a little bit of aggression on my opponents, and they're all finding the fold. But then we pick up pocket kings from the cutoff. The $50, $100, and $200 straddles are already out there. What a dream spot. And I make it $555 to go. Milkman jams for $3,100 and Danny jams for $4,200, and the action's back over to me. Look at Ethan's face. Look at all this action on the table already in front of me. Of course, with the second best hand in poker, I put in the call for $4,200. There's going to be a small side pot, which if you guys aren't familiar means that Danny and I both have $4,200, but Milkman only has $3,100. So Danny and I are playing for the main pot, which is $3,100 times 3, and then we also have a side pot of $1,100 times 2. I hope that made some sense here. Either way, I'm trying to take down both of the pots here with pocket kings. I gotta be in great shape, and the board comes out king 8-7. Bang, we flop the nuts. Not sure how we can lose this hand. The turn comes a 5 of clubs. We don't want to see a diamond, a club, or maybe a 9 or a 4, I guess. The river card comes the 9 of hearts, and Milkman snap turns over jack 10 of diamonds. What a flop for him. He had a flush draw and a gut shot to the straight. Gets there on the river, and Danny sheepishly tells us he had pocket jacks. So kings versus jacks versus jack 10. What a dream spot there to get it all in a $12,000. This would have been a session saver, you guys. I would have been up in Profitsville, but instead, I'm sent to the showers. We're losing this pot. We're winning the side pot versus Danny, so I take back $2,200 as a little bit of a rebate. Nice hand, Milkman. Way to get there with your jack 10 of diamonds. If you guys thought this action was crazy, it's nothing out of the norm here at the fort. Texas poker is just different. That wraps up a record-setting 10-25 here at the fort. It was Rampage's first time in Dallas, and he's already talking about coming back. I ended up booking a loss of just over $5,000, but that just makes me a good host, right? Oh, and Ethan, thanks for also donating another $7,700 back to my DGen friends. If you guys like this video, there's 2 more on your screen right now. Click click one of those to keep on watching. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!